The 1998 Yankees were a phenomenal, colorfully efficient team. They were so colorful, with so many memorable characters, that I wrote over 1,600 words on them for the Post and barely mentioned some huge names. So consider this a sequel, or, to use a dated term, a DVD extra. A few more memories from that epic campaign. Bernie. I can only imagine what it would have been like for, say, 2018 Bernie Williams to go through his walk year on a high-achieving Yankees team. It was pretty intense back then, and the only form of social media we had was instant messaging. A strong belief existed that Bernie, his feelings hurt by some bruising salary battles, and his choice of agent Scott Moore as a sign of his business-like approach, would not return to the Yankees as a free agent. He didn't deal with such questions by pulling a Bryce Harper and forbidding all questions, nor did he entertain any and all scenarios and create headlines. Rather, he just stayed Bernie, which means he remained open, accessible and thoughtful, and spoke in the abstract, because that was just the way he spoke. He produced a characteristically terrific season, while also missing a significant chunk of time, characteristic, also, with a right knee injury. And of course, after the season, he danced with the Diamondbacks and Red Sox among others, before meeting personally with George Steinbrenner and telling him how much he wanted to remain a Yankee. It might have been too late, if not for Albert Bell's last-minute dissing of the Yankees for the Orioles. Talk about a bullet dodged in the dynasty, and Bernie's legacy, saved by the stadium accident. You could argue this Yankees season ensured their long-term future in the Bronx, as Steinbrenner entered the season still not convinced his club could generate enough revenue there. And when a 500-pound concrete and steel beam fell in April, shutting down the stadium for a week, that helped the boss's cause. By the end of that season, the Yankees had drawn nearly 3 million people, proving Steinbrenner wrong in pointing the Yankees toward getting a new ballpark in the Bronx. In the shorter term, the accident gave New York baseball fans the oddity of a two-game, four-team doubleheader at Shea Stadium that April 15, Angels-Yankees in the day and Cubs-Mets at night. Darryl Strawberry naturally went deep in his one-time ding at Shea. Although my favorite memory from that day occurred about 7:30 that morning, as the Yankees reported to the stadium to bus over to Shea. Chili Davis quipped something to the effect of, "I've never been at a ballpark this early." There have been times when I hadn't even gone to sleep yet at this time. I pet it. 1998 certainly did not go down as one of Andy Pettitte's better seasons. He hit a 10-month lull of sorts, from May 98 through July 1999. Then he somehow revived himself after the Yankees opted not to trade him at the '99 trade deadline and became the legend he is today. What sticks out in my mind about Pettitte from that season, retroactively, is that he lost twice to the Twins, who finished 70-92 at the Metrodome. Those games marked the first time I saw a young Twins first baseman designated hitter named David Ortiz, who went a combined 3 for 6 against Pettitte. Zimmer. Man, what a bunch of big names Joe Torre had on his coaching staff, from third base coach Willie Randolph to hitting coach Chris Chambliss to pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre. Yet the cameras couldn't stay away from bench coach Don Zimmer, whose jolly face and animated expressions struck such a wonderful contrast to Torre's stoic gaze. Zimmer, like Torre and David Cohn, helped alleviate the media burden, regaling reporters with tales from his storied past. He also diffused tension on the bench, mocking Paul O'Neill for his outbursts after a tough at-bat or letting Derek Jeter stroke his head for good luck. Joe Girardi and Jorge Posada. Quite the catching duo, and quite the polarizing figures, unwittingly. The New York and Tampa branches of Steinbrenner's pinstriped government argued regularly over which of these two was superior and, therefore, deserved more playing time. Few would argue now that Posada put together the better career. It was in '98, though, that Posada leapfrogged over Girardi in plate appearances, 409 279, and it didn't occur without turbulence. Cohn and Pettit both preferred to pitch to Girardi, whereas Posada handled David Wells, Hideki Irabu and Orlando Hernandez. Which meant, in the postseason, with Irabu out of the rotation, Girardi and Posada essentially went 50-50. Girardi was one of two players on that team who became a manager, for now. The other one was Dale Spoon, who got designated for assignment in July and, in one of the more peculiar moves you'll see, decided to hang around with the team for the rest of the season and throw batting practice. He resumed his playing career the next year with the Pirates, the Angels. At 6'5", they were the only team to post a winning record against those Yankees. You know who was particularly proud of this, years later? Their manager, Terry Collins. If memory serves correct, I conducted a single one-on-one interview with Mariano Rivera that year, and it was to discuss how few saved opportunities he had because those Yankees consistently blew out their opponents. He did spend a couple of weeks on the disabled list, yet that doesn't fully account for his low workload. This does better. The Yankees won 42 games by 5 runs or more. Spencer and Lee D. Remember Seamus Spencer's crazy September 8 homers, which carried into homers in his first 2 playoff games, games 2 and 3 against the Rangers in the American League Division Series. I'll always remember seeing Spencer alone at a bar in Dearborn, Michigan. That April, after he picked up his first career RBI, it had to be tough for Spencer, who had crossed the picket line during the 1995 work stoppage. Ricky Leedy was a bona fide prospect, unlike Spencer, and he grew up alongside Rivera, Posada, and Jeter in the Yankees organization. While he never approached the hype that accompanied him, he enjoyed a few great moments, among them his .600 batting average in the '98 World Series. Going back to our instant messaging reference from above, that week gave Lee D a new AIM handle, RLEDEE600. End of the streak. The '98 Yankees were not the main story for one night that season, September 20 at Orioles Park at Camden Yards. They served as bystanders as Cal Ripken Jr. ended his consecutive games streak at 2,632. Ripken was the rare opponent who received only love from Yankees fans, and the Yankees themselves displayed their respect for Ripken when they emerged from the dugout and joined the Orioles crowd one out into that Sunday night game. The home run chase. It seemed fitting the Yankees' home run leader, Tino Martinez, went deep only 28 times, less than half of that season's record breakers Mark McGwire, 70, and Sammy Sosa, 66. I remember much talk about how the Yankees team wins record would last longer than McGwire's single-season homer mark. They both went down in 2001, courtesy of the Mariners' 116 wins and Barry Bonds' 73 homers, although you could contend the Yankees still have the most wins combining regular season and postseason with 125. Irabu. As we now fully appreciate, too late, sadly. He really struggled with life. You know who worked hard to integrate him into the Yankees clubhouse? 3 guys. Cone and Wells took him out to eat and tried to share their pitching wisdom with him. And Jeter did everything he could to make Irabu feel like one of the guys in the clubhouse. Jeter came up with the nickname Boo Boo for Irabu, which always drew a smile from the moody right-hander. Drew Henson. The Yankees' excitement concerned not only their present but their future, as they thought they had a great farm system. They enhanced that, they thought, when they drafted Drew Henson out of high school that year and signed a deal that allowed him to play football at Michigan and baseball in the Yankees' farm system. Henson took batting practice with the big league club at Tropicana Field that July, preceding the Yankees' very first game at the Trop. And of course, Henson played in only 8 games for the Yankees and got 1 hit, a ground ball single up the middle of Baltimore's Eric Dubas in the last regular season game of 2003. Stay tuned for part 3 next week, when we discuss Scott Brosius, Brian Cashman, Chad Curtis and Louis Soho, among others. Or actually, this might be it until 2038. Let's catch up on pop quiz questions. 1. From Jen Barrett of Wanta, in a 1986 episode of Street. Elsewhere, Dr. Fiscus, Howie Mandel, has a brush with death, during which he meets a legendary Yankee in heaven. Name the Yankee. 2. From Gary Mintz of South Huntington, in the 2017 remake of Going in Style, Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman each wear baseball caps, sporting different MLB team logos, as they rob a grocery store. Name the 2 teams. 3. From Gary Mintz again, in the 2017 film The Big Sick, Kumail refers to his brother as the Pakistani version of a famous Cubs player. Name the Cubs player. With all of this 98 Yankees talk, a belated rest in peace wish to Tony Cloninger, the bullpen coach of the team, who died July 24. Old-timers will remember Tony best for his hitting prowess as a pitcher. As the Yankees bullpen coach, he was well liked for his easygoing nature and knowledge of pitching. Tony used to call me Dirt Man, because my job was of course to dig up dirt. I don't think he ever knew my name. Once, he called me in the office and when my wife picked up my cell phone, Tony asked, "Is the Dirt Man there?" Your pop quiz answers. 1. Lou Gehrig. 2. Yankees and Mets. 3. Sammy Sosa. If you have a tidbit that connects baseball with popular culture, please send it to me at davidoff@nypist.com.